Hey everybody, Vince Lewis with Partners MGU, welcoming you to another edition of the Partners Podcast. In our final episode of this four-part series with Adam Russo of the Phia Group, we continue our dialogue on a variety of current subjects related to the self-funded industry. This episode discusses the American Rescue Plan Act, which was passed earlier this year, that among other things, carries some provisions that can have potential impact for both self-funded plans and in turn stop-loss providers. To be honest with you, I hadn't paid a lot of attention to the act in terms of the insurance aspect until I got a call from one of my brokers asking how we plan on handling the COBRA premium subsidy language in the law. So when I began to research the language, the more concerned I got. In essence, qualifying employers are required to offer 100% subsidized COBRA continuation coverage from April through September of this year to what are called assistance eligible individuals, or AEIs for short, at no charge in premium to the individual. The employer in turn is offered a tax credit against their payroll taxes. Problem is, that act extends COBRA continuation to individuals prior to April this year, even if they had declined coverage previously. Now, this creates a significant anti-selection risk for the employer and the carrier. Some folks think more often than not these AEIs these folks won't even read the election notice letter that comes in the mail. But all it takes, as you know, is one person to elect coverage and then have some kind of procedure, or at worst, develop complications to create some huge claim that could have devastating impact. It's like Adam said, once you get it, you can't take it away. Adam and I do agree on several things though. You have to keep up with ways to control costs to prevent exposure through constant review of claims data, cost containment programs, and plan document review and amendments. And in case you were wondering, we at Partners follow all federal guidelines regarding COBRA as they are revised, explained, expanded, relaxed, or whatever, due to the impact of COVID. If a member is reinstated, claims from that individual will be deemed eligible, barring any other determining factors. To listen to our full conversation, please click on the link in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
There are a lot of things that have spurned from COVID that are really challenging, I think, to how we're going to be able to move going forward. Like one thing, like this recently passed American Rescue Plan Act. I know they're supposed to come out with some guidelines and directions on how that's supposed to work, start, I think, tomorrow. But I mean, this whole thing with COBRA continuation coverage, it's really, the more I hear about it, the more I'm like, how is this going to work for employers? It just seems like it's going to be another Pandora's box.
Remember when 10 years ago, you had you could be 20, if you were 22 years old or 23 years old, you couldn't be on your parents' plan. Right?
Yeah, that was a long time ago, though.
Right?
What you're saying, right?
And as you know, and I'll be honest, right? I like the getting rid of the pre-existing condition exclusion. That to me is morally important. Like,
sure,
because you're sick. I mean, the whole point is, shouldn't we be helping the people that are sick, not hurting them? So right. I get that. But the minute you give people something, my kids, all right. Hey, kids, look at this. This is called a phone. And you can go online and look at YouTube.
Yeah.
Try to take that phone away afterwards. It's no different with this. The minute people get something, right or wrong, good luck trying to take it away.
Yep.
There is zero chance from a political standpoint or even an ethical standpoint, moral standpoint, that you'll ever go back to you're allowed to deny someone coverage because of a pre-existing condition.
Yep.
It's going to be nearly impossible to go back to, oh, you're 25, you're just smoking weed all day in your parents' basement? No worries. You're not covered under the plan. That's never,
right.
Those days are over.
Happen. Yeah, exactly.
So the minute you give, it's hard to take away. And what I've seen, and I know you have seen, especially in the stop-loss world, the minute they got rid of lifetime maximums.
Right.
Remember when every claim somehow was under $1 million?
Yep, exactly. Yep.
How all of a sudden are there $5 million claims, $10 million claims, $30 million claims?
Yep.
So you're telling me with COVID, the cost won't continue to stay high? Not talking about the patients. the employee. I'm talking about the employers. They're going to eat these costs.
Yep.
And people say, well, in the fully insured world, they don't. Yeah, you do. You're paying more premium. Trust me. So the point is, the concerning point I have is, unless we have a situation where instead of the focus being on giving everything to everybody, sure, give everything to everybody, but have a plan in place of how you're going to contain those costs so that you're not going to see this just explosion continue to occur. And that's my fear. I just see these costs going up, especially because of this. I mean, if it's answer me this question, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
If it's related to COVID, right? Has to be, if it's related. What's the definition of a treatment related to COVID? So what if, I break my leg? I'm just throwing out an example.
Right.
It's a slippery slope. Coverage issues related to COVID. I can see every hospital appealing any claim that's denied and say, hey, this is tied to COVID. It is? How? And they'll find a way. So I'm just weary of just these continuous changes. And you realize that every time one of these changes comes in play, you got to update that plan, doc, too.
Yeah.
And that's more money being spent. Well, that's good for me, I guess.
Well, yeah, because I was going to say, because that was going to be my question. Like for stuff like this, I mean, with this act, I mean, basically you've created an inherent selection risk. A person could come back, from last year and say, you know what, I should go get that surgery now or whatever. And hey, next thing you know, it could be something. It could develop. The person could go in for a minor surgery, develop sepsis, right, and get super sick, and then ring up a whole bunch of money. So then you have this huge claim on your hands. But like you said, like updating the plan doc is probably the best way for an employer to protect themselves against these possibly unforeseen situations.
If you're a broker right now and you have not had a conversation, if you're an employer right now and you have not had a conversation with your broker about what's going to change in 2021 versus 2020, you better fire that broker.
Yeah.
The bottom line is this. You need to make sure you're real understanding. Yeah, great. You had a great year last year. Claims haven't spiked. Those things I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, you need to look at your claims data and your employee behavior and see what are you doing to address what's going on in the country today. Telemedicine, rehabilitation facilities. Are you even auditing your pharmacy spend? It's through the roof.
That's huge, right? That's huge.
These are things that people need to do that they weren't doing in prior years. But I can tell you, there are so many employers and brokers right now who are doing this. They're patting themselves on the back because 2020 was an awesome year,
right?
From a claim standpoint.
Yep, exactly.
So that's the concern.